Good evening and welcome to the December 13th, 2021 Kent County Public Schools Board of Education meeting. The first item on the agenda is to call this session open. The next item on the agenda is the approval of the agenda. Do we have a motion to approve the agenda as presented? Or is there any changes required?
I would like to make a change to the agenda if possible.
Okay.
Under Superintendent's report, if we could move the report to item C and then move B and C up to A and B.
Okay. We have a recommended change. We'll call for the vote. All those in favor?
Can I ask a question?
Please.
So, you and I, Dr. Couch and I had exchanged emails this morning, and you had asked me a question. I said, yeah. If you could.
It's on there. It's under Administrative Services, item G.
Oh, okay. Thanks, okay, I appreciate it.
No problem.
Okay, we have a recommended change as well as just a check-in on another item that was requested. Do we have a motion to approve the agenda as presented with the changes?
I move that we approve the agenda as amended.
We have a motion by Mr. Johnson. Do we have a second?
Second.
We have a second by Ms. Sullivan. Any further comments or questions? Hearing none, we'll call for the vote. All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Hearing none, the motion passes. The next item on the agenda is moving into closed session. The Kent County Public School Board of Education members, this board, Dr. Karen Couch, the superintendent, Mr. Dan Hushin, Supervisor of Human Resources, and Gail Manley, Executive Assistant to the Superintendent, will move to closed session under General Provisions, Article 3-305B, to discuss the appointment, employment, assignment, promotion, discipline, demotion, compensation, removal, resignation, or performance evaluation of appointees, employees, or officials over whom this public body has jurisdiction, as well as any other personnel matter that affects one or more specific individuals. Do we have a motion to move into closed session?
I motion we move into closed session.
We have a motion by Ms. McGee. Do we have a second?
Second.
We have a second by Ms. Sullivan. Any further comments, questions? Hearing none, we'll call for the vote. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? Hearing none, the motion passes. We will be returning at approximately 6:30 for open. Good evening and welcome to the December 13th, 2021 Kent County Public School Board of Education meeting. This is the second open session for the evening. The first item on the agenda in Section 3 is to report on closed session. Excuse me. The Kent County Public Schools Board of Education members of this board, Dr. Karen Couch, Superintendent, Mr. Dan Hushin, Supervisor of Human Resource, and Ms. Gail Manley, Executive Assistant to the Superintendent, met in closed session under General Provisions Article 3-305B to discuss the appointment, employment, assignment, promotion, discipline, demotion, compensation, removal, resignation, or performance evaluation of appointees, employees, or officials over whom this public body has jurisdiction, as well as any other personnel matter that affects one or more specific individuals. This session was for information discussion purposes only. No action was taken. Personnel actions will be voted upon by the board after the Pledge of Allegiance. The next item on the agenda is the Pledge of Allegiance. Mr. Buckle, please.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
The next item on the agenda is the approval of minutes of the November 8th, 2021 board work session. Do we have a motion to approve those minutes? We have a motion by Dr. Costa. Do we have a second?
Second.
We have a second by Ms. Sullivan. Any comments or questions? Hearing none, we'll call for the vote. All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Hearing none, the motion passes. The next item on the agenda is the superintendent's report. We adjusted the agenda this evening to move the Golden Anchor Award into Spot A, and then Dr. Couch will provide her report in Spot C. So Dr. Couch will open it up for you.
Mr. Hushin, would you like to provide us a little bit of information about the Golden Anchor?
Thank you, President Getz, Dr. Couch, school board members. So the purpose of this is to present our monthly Golden Anchor Award. The Golden Anchor Award gets presented to a staff or group of employees who exemplify the mission and core values of our school system. Kent County Public Schools is an anchor organization that creates an environment of academic excellence through a collaborative, equitable, and rigorous learning community. To present our December award winners, I'm going to call up our Supervisor of Transportation and Operations, Mr. Joseph Wheeler.
Good evening, Dr. Couch, board members.
Good evening.
Tonight, I'd like to present the Golden Anchor Award to the Transportation Department. The Transportation Department has been nominated for the Golden Anchor Award for the month of December. The bus drivers are dedicated professionals to the students and parents of Kent County. As a school bus driver, the ability to make children feel comfortable is just as important as knowing how to drive the bus. Fortunately, their duties aren't just confined to driving. Drivers become an important and steady person in a young child's life. The driver is the very first representative of Kent County Public Schools that a student meets. The interaction between the driver and the student has the potential to set the tone for an awesome day at school. But that is not all. Drivers were at the forefront of delivering school meals and hotspots during the start of the pandemic. If not for them, many students may not have been able to receive meals and/or complete their schoolwork. The contribution of Kent County Public Schools bus drivers play an integral part in the success of our students and school community. Tonight, I'd like to nominate all bus drivers of Kent County Public Schools. Would you all please stand up? Bus drivers in attendance, please stand up. As I call your name, please step forward and get your certificate. And
If you'll remain here at the front, we'd love to get your picture.
Ms. Sheila Hunley. If they're not here, I'm not going to call them. Mr. James Brindley. Miss Deborah Klauser. Miss Emily Farrell. Fritz. Miss Sandra Green. Mr. Cornelius Green. Miss Valentina Hackett. Miss Anna Mae Henry. And Miss Anna Mae Henry brings 54 years of driving experience. Miss Brenda Isaacs. Miss Ann Lane. Miss Nora Jean Loeffler. Emma, we called you, Miss Farrell. We called you. Mr. William Noonan. Miss Mary Peacock. Miss Mary Peacock. Mr. Thomas Robinson. Mr. Michael Shakur. Just to mention, Mr. Martell Sweets, he's on an athletic trip today, has the basketball team down in North Carolina, so he's not able to make it tonight. Mr. Bobby Van Dyke. I'm good.
If I can have,
Not you.
you all can go all the way up to the top step. Next five on this. Yep, middle step.
At UC Berkeley, when they tell kids, when they admit students, give them a big card with a door. And it makes a noise like Velcro. It says, "This is the sound of doors opening."
All right, everybody trying to have your eyes open. Smile with your eyes. All right, that's.
I just want to reiterate our thanks to our Transportation Department. You all have stepped it up, and you provide quality transportation to our students, and we thank you so much for everything you do.
Yeah, thank you all so much. They're all rolling,
Yeah,
no pun intended.
yeah, they got to roll early in the morning.
Yeah.
the next item, we do not have the student here today, but every year we always have our students provide us with artwork so that we can select a picture for our holiday card. So this year, for the 2021 holiday card, the selection was made, and the student that we are honoring is Bernardo Peralta Valerio. And he is a 5th grade student at Galena Elementary. He has a very nice picture.
Oh, that is nice.
All right, so thank you, Bernardo.
Thank you. Dr. Couch, yours.
Yes, rolling.
There you go. Thank you.
Okay, the first item, I'd like to recognize Sam Buckle. He was selected to represent Kent in the PAGE program in Annapolis. He received a congratulatory letter from the President of the Senate and the Speaker of the House. Please join me in congratulating Sam on this. In recognition of the outstanding efforts of our staff members during the 2021 return to school and as a result of COVID-19 pandemic, the Board of Education of Kent County will be rewarding all of our full-time staff with a one-time stipend of $1,200 for the 21-22 school year. All full-time employees who are actively employed and were hired prior to October the 1st will be eligible for the first $600 disbursement that will happen at the December 24th, 2021 pay period. And if an employee was hired after October 21st and before April the 1st of 2022, the second disbursement of $600 will be paid in the June 24 pay period. So I'd like to recognize our employees for their hard work as well. And we are hoping that this will come in handy and show a little bit of our thanks to you all as employees. And also, just as a notation that this was thanks from the Board of Education and from the administration. So thank you very much for everything that you do. The third thing that I wanted to note is MSDE proposed face mask regulations to replace the emergency regulations now in effect. Although that these regulations have now been forwarded to the AELR, there are some notations in which we would not be held under those regulations, and there are 3 off-ramps. And I wanted to discuss what those off-ramps are. And in discussion with Bill Webb, we will not meet those regs for requesting a waiver for the requirement to wear masks. If at least 80% of the county population in the county is fully vaccinated, that is one off-ramp, and we're far from that. Pardon?
I said dangle the carrot, Karen.
I'm reading what was decided by MSDE. Okay. The local superintendent may lift the face covering requirement if the principal and the school verifies that the school staff and the students are also 80% vaccinated, which we have close to that in some schools with the staff, but we do not meet that criteria for the students because we are not anywhere near 80% vaccinated with the staff. The local superintendent may lift the face coverings in the school requirements if the county has sustained 14 consecutive days of moderate or low transmission rate of COVID-19 cases. And right now we're at high, so we're not anywhere near that. And what would happen is if we were to reach 14 consecutive days of moderate or low transmission, then if we were to go back up, then we would have to require the masks again. So it would be one of those rolling things that we would have to continue to watch. The proposed regulations will be have been forwarded to the General Assembly's AELR committee, and my understanding is they'll hold a hearing.
What does AELR stand for?
It stands for Administrative, Executive, and Legislative Review.
Okay.
So once they hold a hearing, it'll come back to the state board for final approval. So that concludes my report.
Great, thank you. The next item on the agenda is the blueprint for Maryland's future. Dr. Couch.
I thought it would be important to provide you with a little bit of information about the blueprint. I know we've talked about it, but this is an opportunity for you to hear a little bit more about the blueprint itself. Let me see. As you know, the State Commission and recommendations started with the Kerwin Commission. The Kerwin Commission had 24 members that served from 2016 to 2019. There was an adequacy funding study update that was done by APA, Augenblick, Palak and Associates. And then there was an equity analysis that was done by Dr. Tolson from Howard University, and of course the Maryland Department of Legislative Services. Every one of those players had something to do with coming up with the blueprint. The Kerwin Commission's charge was to make policy recommendations to enable the system to be a world-class performing system, and also to review and recommend any needed changes to the current funding formula. One of the things that was important to note is the recommendations to the funding formula were made by a legislative subcommittee. I know there was some discussion that the Kerwin Commission actually came up with those recommendations. They did not. They approved the recommendations, but they came through the legislative subcommittee themselves.
And when will those funding formulas be applied? Will they be in this next budget cycle?
They will start to come into play at the next allocation of funding. Kerwin Commission turned to NCEE, which is the National Center of Education and Economy, to provide a gap analysis, and they use 9 building blocks for looking at what do school systems have in common if they are a world-class educational system. These are the 9 building blocks. As you will note, the first one provides strong supports for children and their families. They provide more resources for students at risk. They develop world-class, highly coherent instructional systems. They create clear gateways for students. They assure an abundant supply of high-qualified teachers, and you'll see a lot of these building blocks in the policy areas that we'll go through. Create an effective system of career and technical education and training. Create a leadership development system that develops leaders at all levels, and institute a governance system that has authority to develop policies. So these are the 5 policy areas that the Kerwin legislation or the blueprint has, and all of the various aspects of the Kerwin Commission that we have to implement in our schools. The first one is early childhood education. Second one is high-quality, diverse teachers and leaders. Third is college and career readiness pathways, which includes CTE, and then more resources to ensure all students are successful, and then governance and accountability. The first one, early childhood education, is investing in high-quality early childhood care. And it's really the expansion of full-day pre-K, which we already have in place and we've had in place for quite some time. But it's also is to be free for all low-income 3- and 4-year-olds, so that children they would have the opportunity to begin kindergarten ready to learn.
Will we possibly be able to expand our Judy centers to our other elementary schools?
That really depends upon funding and seeing how we can expand those over time.
So Dr. Couch, has there been any indication that any current monies that we spend on pre-K would be reimbursed or be eligible?
Right now, we are being reimbursed for only the ones that meet the criteria of low income.
Okay.
So since we offer universal pre-K, that means it's free for every student, then we only get reimbursed for those that would qualify for the low income.
Got it.
So the other, whatever it costs for us to staff those schools are on us. personally as a school system.
But the pre-K would now be included in the new Kerwin funding formula?
For low income.
Just for
Yeah,
low
low
income?
income.
Okay.
If the national Build Back Better plan is passed with early childhood, would we get some funds from that?
For what? No, I didn't hear you.
If the national, the Build Back Better law, bill is passed, which includes quite a bit of funding, I think, for 3 and 4-year-olds.
Oh, I see.
Would we get some of that?
We would, but it would be, I think it would still be based on low income and sliding scale. So we'd have to see how that plays out. I'm not clear on all of the nuances with the funding for that. It's still,
We have 3-year-olds right now,
well, we only have 5 3-year-olds.
and they qualify because of low income
They
disabilities?
qualify for the expansion that we have we got a Judy Center expansion or the infants and toddlers expansion. And so that's where we are funding those particular students.
Would we have, I'm thinking specifically of Garnett, which I know is a very packed school. Would we have enough room, capacity?
No,
Okay.
no.
What would we do?
Well, let me go on to the next.
Okay.
So it says right here that we would expand full-day pre-K at no cost for families with incomes of up to 300 to 600% of the federal poverty level. So that goes for the income that we talked about. Implement a school readiness assessment, which we talked about, which is the KRA. Expand Judy Centers, and that would hopefully include infants and toddlers, and it would increase opportunities for students ages 0 to 5. And then beginning in '23, eligible private providers shall account for at least 30% of the eligible pre-K providers in each county. So the reason why I wanted to go to the next slide is because we would have to show that there are private providers that are also part of this, knowing that a lot of school systems don't either have the capacity to expand programs in their schools, or they don't have, they didn't want to take away from providers that are providing some of these resources. So the eligible providers comes from MSDE. They're the ones that note who are the eligible providers. At this point, we're not under any requirement to fill or see how that's going to affect us at this point. But beginning in FY '23, it'll become clearer to show if we don't have enough eligible providers, then we would be held harmless on this part.
And is that based on the total population, or is that based on what the estimated enrollment would be for that age group?
That I don't know. High-quality, diverse teachers and leaders. This is elevating our teachers and school leaders. Essentially, this policy area is about raising standards and status of our teaching profession, and including an opportunity to implement a career ladder and making salaries comparable to other fields with similar educational requirements. So creating a career ladder essentially is one that incentivizes teachers to stay in the classroom. So there was a lot of discussion in the Kerwin Commission about teachers making decisions to get out of the classroom because of the pay. And now it's to look at how do we pay our teachers well enough to where we keep a lot of our good teachers in the classroom. So that was where the career ladder came up with.
From what I read, some school systems have already started putting some of these things into practice, correct?
Some already had a career ladder in place. If you'll note, and I'll get to this in a further slide of when we are required to have the career ladder in place. In 2025, initial teacher certification requirements will change. Passing nationally recognized portfolio-based assessments, passing rigorous state-specific exam mastery of reading instruction, and then, of course, looking at the NBC as a way of recognizing the fact that those are our quality teachers and we would want them to stay in the classroom. One of the biggest changes is that the practicum, which right now is only a semester, when you're going for your teaching degree, you work in the classroom for one semester. Now it would be increased to 1 full year. And the rationale from that particular requirement was to ensure that teachers or soon-to-be teachers had a better sense of what the classroom was like from the beginning of the school year to the end of the school year. So it wouldn't just be, oh, my practicum happens to be spring semester, or my practicum happens to be fall semester. It would be a full year practicum, so they get a full experience of the teaching profession. By July 1st of 2024, we have to implement the career ladder that provides compensation. So this coming year is FY '23, so by 2 years from now, we would have to have in place a career ladder that supports and encourages teamwork, allows teachers extra time outside the classroom to support students and increase PD. And of course, the career ladder requirements would set minimums, but they are all subject to collective bargaining. And then transitions to strong preference for the MBC for advancement. So using the National Board Certified certification as a way to acknowledge teachers that have a strong desire to be in the classroom, and putting greater emphasis on that rather than the master's degree. Now, one of the things is not everything falls under the National Board certification. So that's why it's not just National Board certification. If you happen to be in an area where you would get your master's degree in something else, but there is no National Board certification, then that would qualify you to have your master's degree as well. Pay. Mandates 10% raises for teachers, and that falls between FY '20 to FY '24, above the negotiated schedule. So the school systems would have to justify that between FY '20 to FY '24, that the teachers saw a 10% increase. Mandates starting for at least $60,000 a year for teachers beginning in FY '26. And then mandates of $10,000 raise for all National Board certified teachers, and then a $7,000 increase for a National Board certified teacher who is assigned or volunteers to go to a low-performing school.
I'm
So-
surprised it's not the other way around.
What do you mean?
I would think that the raise would be higher for a National Board certified teacher who went to a low-performing school.
Well, actually, they would get both of those.
Oh, so they'd get the 10,000 and the
And the
7,000 on
7.
top of it? Okay, well, that
Yeah.
makes sense.
Yeah.
Okay.
So it would be potentially a teacher and a
A
National Board.
17,000.
Yes.
Okay, I got you. Okay.
So this will be, make sure I understand. This will be so say a teacher is making 60K, they are now would be making
77.
77K, and that's where they would still go and continue.
That would be a permanent raise in their salary.
Per
A
stipend.
yearly raise? When you say permanent, you mean yearly?
Well, as long as they're there at that school,
Right.
they would still get that 17 on top of whatever salary
Okay.
increase they
Okay.
would get.
Yeah.
Plus a stipend. Do we stipend here for national?
No, this would be in place
So
of.
we don't, my question is, we don't stipend for national?
Yes, we do.
We do. So plus on top of the stipend as well?
No, this would be part of the negotiation. So if the stipend is 2,000, it would be replaced by the 10,000. There would be level 1 on the career ladder would be for state certificated teacher. Level 2 would be certificated teacher pursuing a master's or MBC. Level 3 would be a National Board certification holder, master's degree holder, or an assistant principal. And then level 4 would be 2 tracks. That's where they would divide up into either the teacher leadership track or the administrator track. And then by 2029, they must have an MBC or receive an MSDE waiver for not having the National Board Certified.
Do we currently have a teacher leadership track?
No, we do not.
Okay.
Career ladder and classroom time beginning in 2025. Classroom time is decreased over an 8-year period. So levels 1, 2, and 3, the teachers would teach an average of 60% of the day. The other 40% of the day, they would be working on lesson plans, providing one-on-one support for other students. So they would just be teaching in the class for 60% of the day, but there would be other professional responsibilities that they would hold within the school. So tutoring is one.
So who would be doing, who would
You'd
be
have to have
watching the kids?
multiple teachers. I mean, so if you're gonna have a teacher that's now gonna be teaching 60%, only 60% of the day, then essentially you're gonna have to have 2 teachers in that classroom.
You know, this really goes back to the 80s. I remember then, there was, teachers were saying that the future was supposed to be that teachers were not going to have to do bus duty and hall duty and a lot of these things that really hasn't changed. Teachers are still doing these things, but it was, back in the 80s, we thought, oh, they won't do that. Paraprofessionals will do those things.
Right.
So we really haven't gotten beyond that.
Yeah. This all remains to be seen, and one of the concerns that is out there right now is with the teacher shortage, and now we're gonna have to have potentially twice as many teachers to fill these positions. Is this the time to be implementing this portion of the Kerwin blueprint? So I just don't know whether this, if there's gonna be delays. Now, listening to Dr. Kerwin speak at some recent conferences, he's of the opinion there will be some delays in some of these implementation dates. But at this juncture, there is no delay. This is what's in the law, and that's just what we're, moving
It should
forward.
attract more people into teaching.
Right.
Isn't that part of the reason for it?
Right, but it's going to take a while to get more teacher into the teacher certification programs. You're not gonna get people overnight.
Is the number of hours in a teaching day universal for the state? So 60%?
Yes.
It would be the same across every district? Okay.
Now, interestingly enough, one of the superintendents was saying that they had spoken to someone from the Department of Legislative Services, and they seemed to think that professional development days could count as time outside of the classroom as well. So if you're only teaching an average 60% of the day, if you have early release, then that counts as time out of the classroom. If you have professional development and you have a day without students, that also counts. So adding all of those times are supposed to be averaging into that 60%. So I had not heard that, but that's what I was told at a recent meeting that I attended.
I've got a question. So when a teacher's given their schedule, so teach an average 60% of the day, is that like at the end of the year, you've taught 60% of the day? I'm just trying to figure out, my math skills are awful, I'll acknowledge that. But I'm wondering, how do you, like, I'll use the high school that's got the 4-period block day. How do you drive that? I mean, are you going to end up stop teaching in the middle of one of the periods?
Yeah, I don't know.
Okay.
Those are all.
And who's going to figure out all that?
Yeah. As you can see, it's pretty complicated.
Yeah.
And I won't go through the rest of those percentages, but you'll see how it progresses over time. College and career readiness, it's creating a world-class instructional system. It's about making sure that students reach career and college ready by the end of 10th grade, which is a little bit different than what we're looking at right now. We're saying they need to be college and career ready by the 12th grade. Now we're saying they have to be college and career ready by the 10th grade, and then they can go into technical educational and CTE programs. So it kind of flips everything a little bit differently. by 22, each county must develop a ninth grade tracker system to measure student progress towards graduating on time. Students not progressing in the manner to meet CCR by 10th grade have to be given an alternative program. And then students not meeting CCR by the end of 10th grade shall receive an individualized plan to prepare them for student success. And then meeting CCR currently, right now, in the law, it says you have to score a 4 or a 5 on the math and English portions. Now, MCAP doesn't go up to 4, it doesn't go up to 5, it only goes up to level 4. So this part of the law is going to have to get changed because they were using Park as the gauge, and now we have MCAP. So that there's going to have to be some adjustments on what is CCR, and I know those discussions are already happening at MSDE.
Dr. Couch, if they meet CCR by the end of 10th grade, what's the point of staying in high school another 2 years?
Because they can go for dual credit, they can go on to complete CTE programs. So in other words, you're front-loading all of your graduation requirements through 10th grade. And then in 11th and 12th grade is when you would be taking dual credit or getting an associate's degree or something of that nature, or it could be a combination of the two. You're working on your industry certification with CTE. So you're front-loading all of your college, all of your high school graduation requirements early.
So you
And
wouldn't be taking English in 11th and 12th grades?
no, you'd finish all of those courses by the time you were finished with 10th grade. So then we'd have to have in place AP courses, which we do. We'd have to have dual enrollment program, and then, of course, the CTE pathways. There's also a new committee that will be put together for the CTE, looking at workforce development, and they would be represented by employers, industry, trade associations, and the CTE committee would establish goals through FY30 for 45% of the high school students to complete a apprenticeship and/or an industry-recognized occupational credential, which, as many of you may recognize, we're already up there with that percentage in Kent County. I think we're either number 1 or number 2 in the state for having students that not only complete their high school graduation requirements, but they also have a CTE certification on top of that. But I think the difference with that is when you front-load everything, then you're going to have a number of students that may just be going with an associate's degree. So you'll have to be mindful that we'll have to track both things. We'll have to make sure that not only are they doing dual credit, but need to make sure that there are a number of our kids that are getting certification through the CTE programs as well.
And it sounds like this would have to affect our middle school curriculum as well. If we're going to be front-loading things for the 9th and 10th grade, we need to adjust everything up to that as well.
Yeah, we may be looking at what the requirements are for 8th grade.
Okay.
More resources to ensure students are successful. This is looking at more before and after school programs, our summer academic programs, and looking at programs for English learners and special education students. It revises the formula for farm students, adds a concentration of poverty weight. Those are the concentration of poverty grants that we talked about, and establishing community schools. The concentration of poverty grants were based on 80% of the students qualifying for free and reduced lunch. The farm's threshold drops every year by 5%. So right now it's at 80%. Next year it'll be at 75%, and it'll continue to go down until I think the last percentage that I heard would be 55%.
Are they making any adjustments to the farm's application process at all to make that?
Not that I heard of.
Dr. Couch, I know the poverty grants, I guess, came through local management board.
No,
No.
they didn't come through the local management
But
board.
do they play a role in it some? Okay.
They can play a role in helping with needs assessment, but it came through MSDE.
So what exactly is a community school? I would think that our elementary schools meet the old definition of a community school.
Right. Community schools are typically schools that offer wraparound services, so they look at offering more services for the medical aspect, providing more medical services for the students. That's why we have to make sure we have an RN at each of the schools. We also look at, are we meeting the social emotional needs of the students? And then involving and creating partnerships with all of the community that are associated with that particular school. So for instance, with Rock Hall, looking at all of the businesses and community partners that could, kind of like the Judy Center. Look at all the partnerships that the Judy Center comes up with. That would be what a community school would look like. All of the partnerships and what could they do to provide more wraparound services for the students. So you have one person that's really assigned to doing just that, is creating those partnerships, looking for ways to bring community members into the school, providing more tutors, looking at after-school programs, looking at summer programs, and doing all of that after completing a needs assessment to see what Rock Hall might need may be very different than what Garnett might need.
So that's tied into percentage of poverty, right?
Right.
So I would think all schools would benefit from wraparound services. I question almost the equity. What if a school doesn't meet the poverty threshold, but there are students in that school that would have benefited from it and they don't get them?
Yeah, I think the feeling from the Kerwin Commission was that you have a lot of the students that are living in poverty that have greater needs. And so providing those concentration of poverty grants and the concentration of dollars to provide those layering and wraparound services is going to ultimately improve student achievement.
Aren't there some districts that are considered concentration poverty, the entire district, as opposed to it being based on the school?
I haven't heard that yet.
No, okay.
And I think, I think this is a good idea to talk about, as we go through this time with this blueprint to figure out, how to make our going back to the point, just the one school, but making it more inclusive countywide. I would like to really see that come to, although I know we're already doing some of that work, but just expanding that work, I
Right.
think it's important.
Here's some ideas of some wraparound services that you were asking about.
Well, I happened to watch that, it's been a couple months ago now, but when the local management board had a big meeting of local management boards, I think from across the state, they spelled out the wraparound services.
Right. Here's some more ideas for resources for students to be more successful. The transitional supplemental instruction, which is one-to-one, small group tutoring, cross-age peer tutoring, all of those things are provided. Then behavioral health. All certified staff who had direct contact with students had to complete additional training. That was completed this year. And additional funds for coordinated community support to deliver student services also is something that we have to work on as well. Governance and accountability, this is the AIB board. Some of you may have seen that in the newspaper in terms of the board was just recently named by Governor Hogan, and they provide accountability and implementation oversight to the Kerwin. They are an independent unit of state government, and they have authority over MSDE and local boards. The AIB is not intended to usurp the day-to-day decision-making of county boards, but they do have the ability to hold authority over each of the school systems for implementing Kerwin. There will be expert review teams, and that just gives you a little bit of information about the expert review teams. The purpose of the team is to make sure that the school system is implementing Kerwin as represented in the blueprint. Funding accountability, the AIB can withhold 25% of the new funds if they believe that you are not implementing Kerwin as recommended. So it's important to make sure that we're doing what we're supposed to be doing. And in Kent County, we are putting together a steering committee. They're going to serve as a work group for any issues related to accountability and governance. Recommend the implementation plan to the Board of Education, and assist the board, teacher, parent, stakeholder education regarding the plan. So we want to make sure that once we have our plan put together, then we make sure that we get it out to our stakeholders so they understand what the plan is. And then I just wanted to end by letting you know who the chairs are for each of the steering committee policy areas. For early childhood, the chair is Dr. Wendy Keene. For the high-quality, diverse teachers and school leaders, the chair is Dan Hushen. Career, college readiness, and career and technical education, the chair is Mark Buckle, and the co-chair is Tracy Williams. And the resources to ensure all students are successful, the chair is Gina Giacomowitz. For some reason, these pictures are kind of all over the place. They're not supposed to be that way. But anyways, this is our tentative timeline. November through April, the committee develops recommendations. This is the steering committee. They will have a final draft in April, and elements of those drafts will be put into the plan. The plan will be written April through May. Currently, in the legislation, the plan is due in June. However, Dr. Kerwin made the comment that that date will most likely be backed up to October. So we're waiting to hear about that. But right now, the plan is due June the 15th. And then the plan would be, once we get that approved, then we would start presenting it to the teachers and to our stakeholders in September. So questions? A lot of stuff.
Just a question. Dr. Kerwin is on the AIB, correct?
Yes.
Okay. I was just curious because for
Yes.
him to be out publicizing, timelines and all this other kind of stuff, he's clearly tied into
Yes.
AIB. Okay.
I've got a question for you. So back, I don't know if it was late summer or early fall, the commissioners had to sign off on you as the person to make sure we're implementing our plan, and the caveat was, it was not just you, they had Pat Merritt sort of on there too. It sounds like there's an awful lot of stuff to make sure that we're doing. And so this hopefully is not meant to be offend you at all, but can the two of you do that, or do you need more help doing it?
Well, that's where the steering committee comes in.
Okay.
In terms of, one of the things that I said to the commissioners is it's pretty light in terms of the requirements for this school year. So I felt confident that mainly it was just going to be rolling out the timelines and all of those things that we had to
Yeah.
know what the implementation coordinator was going to have to do moving forward. So, and I think that from the county's perspective, they thought that there was going to be a lot of information about funding. And that's why Mrs. Merritt was on there, and there has been pretty minimal information about funding so far, because I think that's still being ironed out in terms of what that looks like. And it's more about what I was stating is us getting prepared
Yeah, I
for
was
all
gonna
of.
say, I think because I was watching that meeting.
Yeah,
It was more a case of us being ready so that when we find out what we're supposed to do, but it was like, a catch-22. They were hesitant to have you being oversight of something that, but you couldn't tell them what you were going to have to do yet, so,
Yeah.
okay.
Yeah. So we've had 4 meetings so far from the implementation coordinator, and Ms. Merritt has been present for all of those meetings.
Gotcha.
This is a question for President Getz. What's the feel from the MABE standpoint?
Yeah, so right now, from a MAID perspective, we're kind of in a holding pattern. It's going to get pretty active, in the beginning of the year, February timeframe. And at that point, there'll be more information. I mean, right now, as Dr. Couch mentioned, there's all of these moving pieces. And as Dr. Kerwin mentioned in some of his releases, I mean, deadlines could potentially be moved. I think there's a lot of work that still has to be done. But you can bet that the counties are watching it pretty hard, trying to understand and trying to get bits and pieces of information coming from the state, which we just don't have yet. So it's kind of a wait and see, but when it starts to roll, it will move pretty quickly. And the feeling is it'll be, middle February when it really starts to catch speed and move forward.
Okay, that concludes my presentation.
Okay. Any additional questions on Kerwin? No? Okay, I'm sure Dr. Couch will be back to update us as we continue down the path. Okay, the next item on the agenda for the superintendent's report is personnel actions. Mr. Hushin.
Thank you, President Getz, school board members, Dr. Couch. Each month, the board receives a report of stated personnel actions. These actions are discussed during closed session and then voted on by the board in the open session. The administration is seeking approval for the stated personnel actions.
Okay, as Mr. Hushin just mentioned, the administration is recommending approval for the stated personnel actions. Do we have a motion to do so?
I move that we accept the administration's suggestions.
We have a motion by Dr. Costa. Do we have a second? Second by Mr. Johnson. Any comments or questions? Hearing none, we'll call for the vote. All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Hearing none, the motion passes. Thank you. The next item on the agenda is the first public participation portion of the evening. Ms. Manley? As Ms. Manley is coming to the front, just some rules for public participation. Speakers should limit their comments to 3 minutes. Comments about the actions or statements of individual staff members are not appropriate for public comments and should be referred to the superintendent of schools or processed through available channels. If submitting written testimony, speakers are requested to provide a copy to the president. Please remember that this is an opportunity for the community to address their comments to the board. It is not an opportunity for dialogue. If you have questions that need an answer, please contact the superintendent or write a letter to the Board of Education, and a response will be sent back to you. I have 2 cards here. The first one up is Ms. Barbara Reed.
Thank you, President. Good evening, all. Want to wish you a Merry Christmas, Happy Holidays. May the joy of the season be upon you. My gut feeling says this is my last time down here tonight. I'm throwing in the towel. I've battled for the kids of Kent County, and what I wanted to say is tonight you guys got schooled on the U.S. Constitution. Individuals have rights. I'm allowed to breathe fresh air. Guys, I almost wore a preemies pamper, a diaper stapled to a mask tonight just to make it laughable. And for our poor kids, who here has recently watched Charlie Brown? Can I see a shirt, like the Christmas shows, the Thanksgiving shows? You sound like the Charlie Brown teacher. Womp, 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 womp. Like, I'm educated, and I know poor children, you can't attain their attention. I know working with the elderly, when they can't hear, guess what? You could get early onset dementia. When you don't see smiles in the window to somebody's inner core, it's not healthy. So tonight, I made a peaceful protest for, I'm not going to do to myself what I don't want to have done to my children. And I should have a kid here in Kent County as a senior. You had a good question tonight, Dr. Costa. How did he finish a whole year early? elsewhere. So, good questions. So learn your Constitution, please. Teach our kids about the Constitution, please. I made my remark about the Charlie Brown teacher. That's sad. I mean, that's a joke, but it's not sad. You guys sound like the Charlie Brown teacher. Money follows the student, or at least going forward. So I've given up on Kent County. I'm going higher. I'm going to the state. And one of the things is, why did the minimum age for someone to drop out of school and get a GED keep going up, 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 and up? Do you know, as a parent, I wanted my kid just to get a GED when I didn't trust them for safety, basic safety? So I'll leave it there. You'll see me around town. You know, I still plan to keep a home here, but many of us are leaving Maryland. Many of us have left Kent County schools, and I hold you guys accountable. Keep it zipped up in your pants. Keep your skirts down. We know what goes on around here, and we're not going to pay for it anymore.
The next person for the public participation is Ms. Cheryl Bachman.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Good evening, Dr. Couch, President Getz, members of the board, and Mr. Buckle. Usually, I'm here to speak as the representative for the Teachers Association. But tonight, I wanted to speak during public participation as an independent KCPS teacher, KCPS parent, and KCPS alumni. I graduated from Kent County High School in 2001, and with the exception of 5 years, I have been back at KCHS as a teacher ever since. I wanted to come back to my home and alma mater. This is an important place for me. I am a student of history. It is my profession. I have studied wars, social history, mythology, religion, archaeology, political science, and historiography in my quest to earn my bachelor's and master's in history. I continue to study history. I am passionate about my subject, and I chose teaching as a profession in order to make students passionate about the study of history as well. I want them to see the story of our past, and that by looking at evidence from multiple sources, evaluating the credibility and biases of those sources, and using their critical thinking skills like contextualization, comparison, causation, and synthesis, they can reconstruct the past in their minds and understand how the past impacts the present. I can admit that early in my teaching career, I relied on assigned textbooks and the history I was taught to hone my craft. Like any good educator, I wanted to learn more about my content area and sharpen my teaching practices to better serve my students. History is not some static subject. Our understanding of it changes as we find new evidence and as we grow as people. It is not just a recounting of barren facts from the past, but rather it is a discipline designed to make its students think about the complexity of our world. I realize that not everyone has a passion for history or even knows what historiography is or how it impacts their knowledge of history, but they should, because I can almost guarantee that our understanding of what you were taught in a history class in the 1970s, 80s, 90s, or even early 2000s is not taught in the same way or with the same evidence. More and more, I am disheartened by the actions and fear-mongering I hear when people talk about what students are learning. So tonight I wanted to stand up for my Black and Indigenous students, my students of color, and my LGBTQ+ students. They deserve to see themselves in history. They deserve to see how people of the same race, ethnicity, religion, sexual orientation, or gender fluidity impacted the history of this nation we live in. Their history matters just as much as anyone else's, and I refuse to teach a history that doesn't include their contributions or hardships in order to make others more comfortable. How can we know how truly exceptional our nation can be if we do not appreciate everyone who has helped to build it, and if we don't confront the mistakes of the past to build an even better future? All of our students deserve to feel safe, welcome, and accepted in our schools because public schools teach all of the community, all of the children in the community. Can I just finish?
Ms. Bachman, you could use the balance of the previous person's time. Thank you.
I should not have to tell a parent that my room is a safe space for their LGBTQ child because every room in the school should be a safe space for that child. I should not have a child cry to me that an adult in the building has dismissed their concerns of racism and microaggressions by other students and adults in school. Every child belongs, and every child has the right to see themselves in the history we learn, in the literature we read, in the field they want to pursue. To do any less is to fail our students. I will continue to teach from the standpoint of diversity, equity, and inclusion. It is the right thing to do, and I hope that the board, other educators, and staff will do the same. We owe it to the next generations. Thank you for your time.
Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Bachman. So the next item on the agenda is the KCTA, but if you feel so inclined to,
It's short and sweet this one.
great, no
Sorry, I tried to get Melissa to come in and speak for me, but she's out on bereavement, so.
problem.
All right. Good evening, Dr. Couch, President Getz, members of the board, and Mr. Buckle. I'm going to keep it short and sweet. KCTA would like to thank the board and the administration for their recognition of the challenges teachers and staff are facing this year. We appreciate your willingness to find more time for us with the half-day schedules and to show your appreciation through the stipend. We look forward to officially beginning our bargaining in January and working together to find the best ways for KCPS to move forward under the Blueprint for Education. We hope you all have a wonderful winter break and wish you a happy new year.
Thank you. Okay, the next portion of the agenda is board discussion. Mr. Buckle, if you could start for us, that'd be great. Thank you.
Good evening, Dr. Couch, President Getz, and board members. I will begin my discussion tonight with school updates provided by the principal at each respective location. A few updates from Kent County High School. The student government will be hosting a cookie walk this Thursday, December 16th at 7 p.m. in the KCHS cafeteria. The SGA is hoping to collect funds for school events like graduation, Spring Madness, and even MASC Leadership Conference attendance fees. Congratulations to our newly inducted National Honor Society members. The induction was refreshing, especially from a student perspective, with seeing students back to normal with club activities. The Spanish Honor Society induction will take place this Wednesday at 7 p.m. in the KCHS Media Center. And the Spanish Honor Society has been selling bracelets made from Guatemala and Nicaragua during lunch shifts. 100% of the proceeds go to educational funding and scholarships in South America.
Excuse me, Mr. Buckle, can you speak up? I'm sorry, I can't. Really
Yeah,
hear
sorry.
you. Thank you.
And then on December 16th through 22nd, it's the Holiday Spirit Week. And then from Henry Highland Garnett Elementary School, on Monday, December 13th, is the Judy Center in collaboration with the Kent Family Center is hosting a playgroup at the Community Center in Wharton. And then December 15th through 22nd is Winter Holiday Spirit Week at Garnett. Finally, from Garnett, December 20th, the Judy Center is having another collaboration, a playgroup, and then at 7 p.m. is a virtual winter musical. Galena Elementary School. On Friday, December 10th, all students at Galena Elementary School were delighted by the author-illustrator team of Matthew and Robbie from Chestertown. The students left the assembly inspired to write and illustrate their own books. Galena Elementary School and the Boys and Girls Club of Cecil and Harford County are partnering together to provide families of Galena with a before-school child care option. They are excited about these new possibilities. And then finally from Galena, Galena is looking forward to the virtual Christmas concert on Facebook on December 20th at 7 p.m. And then from Kent County Middle School on December 16th is the Music Arts Tech Festival from 6:30 p.m. to 8 p.m. I'm truly happy to see the high school returning to whatever normal looks like within this pre-post, almost done, not really pandemic realm. As you all know, I have highlighted negative with my remarks in the past discussions, but recently there's been a lot of positivity flowing within and around our students at KCHS. I just want to highlight some of the past positivity that I've seen within the past month. A huge thank you to Mrs. Andra Anderson and Next Gen Scholars for all the work she has done, not only for Next Gen students, but the entire school. Check out her flyers and everything on social media, especially with college acceptances. It's really great work that's being put in. The SGA is hosting a Maryland governor candidate, Asawani Jane, this Friday for discussion with students about student government and its role in continuing into a profession. The SGA is excited to push more media out in the hallways and on social media with Spanish translations. This has been an absolutely amazing opportunity to work with ESOL students to work on translations while being also vital members within the SGA. The National Honor Society was able to collect a record-breaking amount of blood from the blood drive this past month. We had every spot filled. And then finally, our winter sports athletes are continuing to get weekly testing, which is helping our students stay in sports and stay safe from COVID. These are just some of the wonderful things that have happened in just one of our buildings. and I'm really looking forward to the rest of the positivity through KCHS and KCPS in the coming months. And finally, since this is the last board meeting before winter break, I hope everyone has a happy holiday and enjoy some break with loved ones. Thank you.
Just a question on the cookie walk. Is there a limit to the size container you can bring, or is that?
So, the containers are kind of given out already,
Oh.
but yeah.
Okay, thank you. Dr. Costa?
I've been visiting a lot of schools, brought some stuff to the pre-K teachers that for them to use for crafts. Went to a basketball game that the score wasn't good, but it was a very exciting game, and I thought our team did really well. I went to the National Honor Society induction, and that was it's always a nice event. I've been to some Zoom meetings for the legislative committee for MABE, the Maryland Association of Boards of Education, where mostly we've just been kind of clued into all the laws and bills that are coming up or have been recently passed.
Ms. Sullivan?
I also was able to attend the National Honor Society induction ceremony, and it was wonderful to see all the students and all of the families there. So thank you for that invitation. It's the end of my first year on the Board of Ed, and I have perfect timing. What a great year to be on a Board of Ed. Thank you all. It's been rewarding and challenging, and I respect everyone up here, and I look forward to the rest of my time on the board. I so appreciate all the positive input we've been getting from the community and the continued support of our local businesses and local organizations, so thank you. And I wish everyone happy holidays, and we'll see you in the new year.
Mr. Johnson?
Yes, just a couple of things. Just wanted to inform the board on the equity committee work that's going on at MABE. We are currently finalizing our equity workbook, which will be for all boards of education to inform our work. We're just finalizing that with some scenarios that have been that they're requesting that board members present in the book to help better inform school boards across the state of Maryland. The conference committee did meet to go over the last MABE conference as well in the month of November. Just wanted to highlight a lot of our local organizations are doing some great work for the holiday. Some organizations are collecting toys for children, coats, winter coats. So just keep that in mind for the growing area. I did have the ability to attend Victory Fund, which is one of the organizations that focus on LGBTQIA+ elected officials across the land. A few of my friends are part of those organizations, and so there were a few events in Washington, D.C. that we were able to get by to help inform our work in the regards to just what's being the climate in the current situations of land. I do want to congratulate Mr. Buckle on becoming the legislative page. I had that opportunity when I was in high school, some 11 years ago. But it was an opportunity that I will never forget, an opportunity that meant a lot to me and helped inform who I am today. So that is an honor. And again, congratulations. And then again, holiday wishes. This is a time for us to spend time, take a debrief from the computers, the phone calls, and just find time for your family and rest and recharge, because we're trucking along. Time is actually moving faster, it seems like. So spending those times in quiet and just reflecting but enjoy, have a good holiday, a safe holiday, and a good happy new year.
Thank you. Ms. McGee?
I had an opportunity, several of us did, as a matter of fact, during American Education Week, we were invited to be guest readers at Rock Hall Elementary School. I read to first graders and third graders, and afterwards I had the opportunity just to hang around and watch teaching, and anybody who hasn't been in a classroom for a long time, especially at that age group, and I'm one of those, would not recognize how learning takes place now. I was amazed. You know, first of all, the kids knew exactly what they were doing. I had no clue, just with their whiteboards, and, you know, the teacher had stuff up on well, it was the chalkboard, but it was her lesson plan. She wasn't writing in chalk, and I was just mesmerized, honestly, by what was going on. And at the other extreme, I was out at the community center this morning when our high school students were helping put together the final piece of the Christmas basket committee, and there was a really nice turnout from high school students, 4-H, the Interact Club, and they weren't really able to do that last year because of COVID. So I think they embraced the opportunity to make that kind of contribution, and they were happy, and it was just nice to see kids being able to give back to their community. So hats off to KCPS students.
So just a few updates. Attended the CCAC meeting, which I seem to go to on a fairly frequent basis, and I'm continually impressed by the wide net that's thrown and the folks that come from far out places that come to us virtually, but also in person to really gain all the benefits of those resources. And I'm just always pleased to see. We may be small and mighty when we meet in person, but we have folks that spread out a pretty wide distance. So, certainly my hat's off to CCAC and Dr. Keene and her team for all that goes on, and the guest speakers as well that we have there. The other couple, I actually had the opportunity to attend the pre-K Kindness and Happiness Trail at Rock Hall Elementary School.
I did.
And I will tell you, not only do I have the coolest painted rock on my desk, which it seems like they're all coming from Rock Hall. I have like 4 of them. But I have the coolest 10 to 11 kids, best friends that I think I've ever had in my life with these littles that were so proud to have someone come and visit with them and have them walk you through the Happiness Trail. It was probably one of the highlights of my time on the board. It was just the coolest experience. I did interrupt their tea cakes. So I had to give them time to kind of get out of that space, but it was a really great tour, and I really appreciate it. The teachers and the folks and the school for allowing me to come in and be disruptive. The other piece that I thought was really cool, attended the ESOL presentation at the middle school. That was Friday, the 19th. And that was, I only understood about half of the program, but afterwards the pictures and to hear the stories and to talk to former students and to talk to families and the resources was just another amazing opportunity to see a different side of what we offer and the folks that we serve. And I just thought it was the greatest thing ever. So again, my hat's off to the ESOL team and all the folks that support those students and those families, because it was really cool to see. The last one that I wanted to update on was actually 2. The Chestertown Parade, to see the FFA float, the band perform, as well as the PTSA float, and to see all of the school community supporting. Trish and I ran into each other. It was great to see her on a cold Saturday morning. But not only administrators, teachers, parents, staff, it was a great showing. And I got to tell you, Santa Claus was pretty popular, but the school administrators and teachers and parents were just as popular. So I was very impressed with that community feel that we got to see, on that day, on that cold day. So it was really, really cool. And then just to finish up, Mr. Buckle, the National Honor Society, I thought you handled that brilliantly. It was efficient, it was concise, it was cool. So my hat's off to you for doing a great job with that program. If you ever decide that you want to go into radio or something, I think you'd be perfect for that. So, it's a good place to be. And as well as my fellow board members, just happy holidays to everyone. I know it's been really tough. We've seen articles from various places from across the country with teachers leaving, administrators, just everyone. And just my hat's off to all of you who have to go through what I call slaying the dragons every day. It's pretty tough, and until we get back to some sense of normalcy, as Mr. Johnson mentioned, please, when you get into your space for the holidays, take that time to rest, and just really kind of recharge, because I know everyone's really working really hard, and I can't, speaking for myself, and I'm sure I'm speaking for everyone else on the board, thank you so much for all that you guys do. It's not lost upon all of us. So, okay, the next portion of the meeting is Education Services, Next Gen Scholars Update, and I see Ms. Williams and Ms. Anderson coming up.
Good evening, President Getz, board members, Dr. Couch. Tonight we'd like to bring to you an update on the Next Generation Scholars Program. As you know, we partnered with the Maryland Business Roundtable 5 years ago. It's hard to believe it's been 5 years, right, Andra? To start working with students, primarily as they work through that process of entering into higher education. But I think honestly, as you hear Andra talk tonight, you'll know that, her main goal is to make sure our kids are leaving with a viable plan beyond high school. She'll be sharing 4-year data with you, as we had our first group graduate in 2021, as well as the plans and some of the activities that have been going on for year 5. And again, I think everyone here knows Andra. Andra Anderson has been with us since the inception of the program. And I have watched her really kind of grow into really kind of take the framework that Maryland Business Roundtable has set forth, but really to take this framework and to make it work for our community and our students. And I will tell you, Sam, I agree, she's gone above and beyond in many ways. So I think you will be pleased. I think you'll be happy at what you hear and see tonight. And at this point, I'm going to turn it over to Andra.
Thank you. Well, hopefully I live up to that introduction. Thank you so much. No pressure. No, I'm excited. Thank you so much, members of the board. I'm so delighted to be here. And the word that I'm using for this school year so far has been joy. I'm just joyful to have the students all back. I'm joyful to be able to do programming again that's not virtual. Ooh, no more. No more of that. So very, very excited. So I'm joyful to share some of our year 4. So this is kind of the proof in the pudding, right? This is our year 4 was the first graduating class of students that I had worked with since their 9th grade year. So this current group of seniors I've been working with since 8th grade, which is just wild to think about, but been really excited to see them. How do I? Okay, so just a little number snapshot for year 4. So there were a total of 153 students in the program. So this included students in grades 10, 11, and 12. And I kind of showed the breakdown of the number of students in each grade level, so 47 seniors. We hosted 22 different programs, and that was even virtually. So anything from connecting students to college admissions reps. We did a virtual career tour with different career sites in the county. I attended the virtual classes and did 34 classroom lessons, which I think the teachers were very grateful for. And they were like, yes, please, you lead a lesson today. That sounds great. Very, very good. And they've been very welcoming to have me in their classes this year. But that's just a little snapshot. We started to develop, and this is 4 years in the making, some signature programming. So we look at 10th grade as the explore year with a real big focus on career, 11th grade as the action plan year, and 12th grade as this elevate, hit the submit button, ring the bell, all the celebrations. And then we also developed, and this actually started in the last year, some real signature programming for each grade level. So 10th grade, we focus on service. So we had a summer of service, really connecting students with the local area, getting some community service hours, understanding what's important to this area and how they can be part of it. We started college boot camp with some of our rising seniors. So we actually visited 3 different college campuses, and the goal for them, it was not just to be on the college campus, it was more of the process. So at each school, they got to learn from the admissions counselors, the financial aid counselors, learning about how do I get here? How do I apply to college? How do I pay for college? What are the nuts and bolts of that process? And students left that program having started their common application, starting their financial aid application. So a lot of our seniors hit the ground running, and we did this the first week of August. So they were like ready for this year, ready. And then we did our first graduating class of seniors. So we hosted a program called Next Gen, Next Level, which was a whole day of workshops just designed to get them ready for that next step. And we did this at the Hyatt in Cambridge, really nice location, brought them down there, connected them with some different business professionals. We had sessions like how to save money when you don't have any, which was awesome, and how to change a tire, nuts and bolts kinds of things for getting them ready for that next adult phase of their lives. And we also had a number of current college students that connected with them to tell them, hey, this is what I wish I would have known before I went to college. And they even made some connections. Some of those current college students our graduates were going there to those colleges, so they already made some connections, which was really cool. And we hope to just really grow these programs in the next year. Okay, so as Ms. Williams mentioned, our big thing with the students is, what's your plan? We got to have a plan. What's your next step? We got to figure out what your next step is. So this is the next step of where our class of 2021 went. So a lot of them went right to work or to college, and then one to military and one to trade school. Now the number for college, I do want to say there are a couple of students that will be starting in the spring semester. So they were doing either some pre-work, or the cohort that they were entering with was the spring, but really, really pleased with these results and was able to connect individually with each student last year, which was just so amazing. Just I put this together for National College Colors Day. It's just a fun visual of where some of our seniors went, really all over the map, all over the place in Maryland. Also have somebody down in Miami, somebody in Mississippi, people up in Millersville. So really all over the place, and we're really excited about that. This is the big part too. So part of being in the Next Gen program is the eligibility for the Guaranteed Access Grant, which they're now sort of renaming for our students the Next Gen Scholars Grant, but it's the same pool of money. They just added that name to it. Students last year received $113,000 in those grants, so guaranteed access and also education assistance grants. Those are funds that have to be used in the state of Maryland, so there were some students who received those grants but went out of state. Got good offers to go out of state too, which is great. And then $126,000 in scholarships, or what our students from last year earned. And that was just, 20 students out of 20 students, which is really awesome. So we're hoping to even see bigger numbers this year. So year 5, here's our cohort, 158 students. We did recruit some new 10th grade students. So that's the goal, is to bring in a new cohort each year. And actually we just found out not too long ago that the intention is to go back to the middle school as well. Dr. Speary's excited. So we'll be coming back to engage with some 7th and 8th graders as well, moving into next year. So we'll be talking about that. So there are 56 new 10th graders, and our first thing that we did together, other than a small group meeting, I took a bunch of them on a career tour of Kent County, which was really awesome. 33 of the 56 came on the career tour. So we visited 4 job sites for that career tour, also in 10th grade, so that's just the Next Gen students. But we also do classroom lessons, which is for any 10th grade classroom. So visited 4 classes this year, which was about 70 students, and we'll do the same program in the spring. So that lesson is related to careers and connecting the students with a career professional, talking about their career journey. How do you be successful? How do you even get started? And they take an assessment on Naviance to see, based on what I like, what might be some jobs that are interesting for me to look at. This is just from our career tours. Such a great group. I'm so excited about these students. And then 11th grade, we just completed a mock interview program, so we'll do the same thing in the spring. Those were for 11th grade students that currently have ELA or English classes, and brought 13 volunteers to interview with the students, and that was a really awesome event. visited 8 classrooms with 68 different students, brought a local professional into those classrooms to talk about skills that employers are looking for and how you can start to build them. That's from the mock interview event. So nice. It was so great. It was so awesome, and the students were so excited. I actually had 2 of our volunteers from Dixon indicated to me that the students that they met with were better than some of the people that they interview for jobs. So, hey, all right. The students loved hearing that. And then 12th grade, we're focusing on college for a lot of our students so far, and actually this number is updated since I sent this presentation. We are now at 42 college acceptances, which is pretty exciting. I have a little bell the students get to ring when they get accepted to a college. And I put this board together in my office that has their name and where they got accepted, and that's a real fun. It's like arts and crafts every day. I love it. Bring it on, bring it on. And then also visited with 2 senior classes to talk about, we actually did a lesson on the college essay. So that was our focus for seniors. And then we got to go visit a college in real life. I was so excited. It was no more virtual visits. They're great, but they're just not the same. Getting students on the campus makes a difference. Actually, from this tour, we had 1 student commit to Morgan State, and 2 decide that Towson is the place for them. So those were seniors, but took 37 students in early October to visit both Towson and Morgan State. We called it the Beltway College Tour. Super, super fun day. It was awesome to see the students make those connections. We also celebrated Maryland College Application Campaign Week, brought different colleges from Maryland colleges and universities to visit with the students in the auditorium. So we had 13 of those. Also hosted a Money for College night. About 126 students participated in those events. So that was really awesome. Those are just some pictures from, I think the one on the left is UMBC, and the one on the right is from the Money for College night. I started College Tuesday this year, so really I knew that a lot of the current seniors that were in the program, a big majority of them were interested in attending college, so created this program for after school on Tuesdays. Sometimes we have a theme. I love a good theme. But the idea was just have a space that they could come, work on any part of their application. We had a lot of essay writing sessions, a lot of common application sessions, and now we're focused on scholarships. So the whole month of December has been about scholarships, so doing scholarship workshops. We did some SAT, ACT prep, and we've had about 79 students attend those after-school programs so far this year. January is going to be all about financial aid. I'm real excited. That's my specialty. So just some pictures of students and enjoying College Tuesday, lots of hitting the submit button and lots of ringing the bell. We also participated, so the school counseling office hosted Military Week, and we participated in that. About 92 students attended the military fair and assembly, which was awesome just to see students making those connections, knowing that college is not the only choice, that they have options. And really, really exciting this year, something new, hosting on-site admission. I'm sure you have seen the photos. So we had 17 students admitted on the spot after meeting one-on-one with the admissions counselor, which was such a huge, huge thing for those students. Lots of tears, happy tears, so good. Actually, UMES told us that they enjoyed our visit the most of all the ones that they've done. So, hey, just really good energy from the students. So 5 students were admitted on the spot to University of Maryland Eastern Shore and 12 to Salisbury University. And both of those events kind of sparked additional students to say, hey, I want to check that out too. I want to check out that place. So we've had students apply and be accepted to these places after those events. So more of those to come. Those are fun. Those are where you get to see the students really realize, oh my gosh, I just got admitted to a college. Those are really fun. That picture on the left gets me. I love these fields, so good. So much excitement. And then Salisbury. And we are now 47 episodes into the College and Career Corner radio show. Have had a different guest visitor every single week. I'm really excited. Tomorrow is the president of the Mid-Shore Community Foundation that gives a lot of money to Kent County students, Buck Duncan, so he'll be there. And then afterwards, he's actually going to host a scholarship workshop for our seniors. So that will be really awesome to hopefully get students started on those applications so they submit them early. so much coming up. So we have that scholarships workshop. We're planning a spring college trip. We're actually going to go. We adopted the kindergarten classes at Garnett, so we're going to go do a little holiday cheer with them on Wednesday, read them a little book, bring them a little gift. We'll have Youth Congress Day in Annapolis in March. We'll take students to go tour the Capitol building to get to meet with different representatives and learn more about what's happening in Annapolis. And then more classroom lessons, more volunteer opportunities, making more connections with our students. I think somebody alluded to this before. I do a lot of posting. We just get lots of joy on our social media. So Instagram and Facebook, if you want to just have a happy moment and feel connected, I encourage you to check those out. That is all I have. Lots of things. Joyful. Any questions?
I've got a question or two. I think I've asked this before, or you've said this. It's grant funded, right?
Yes.
And are we still working through that first multi-year grant or what? Or so I'm just worried that we will be able to sustain the program.
Oh, it's now been added as a budget line item, so there's no like reapplying for the next 6 year. It's just
Whose budget? The state?
the state budget.
Okay.
Mm-hmm.
Gotcha.
Yeah, very excited.
Are there? I know that Kent County's one of the handful right now. Are there plans to add more?
So, not that I've heard to add more, but every program is going to get reevaluated that's currently getting funding. So MBRT is just one of the groups that's getting funding, and we have 6 districts in 5 counties. There are others in like Somerset County, Baltimore City, places like that. All of the programs are going to be evaluated at the end of the year, and so from that, there might be some that are pushed out. Ours, MBRT gets the biggest chunk of the grant. We're not going anywhere. We do a lot of programming, but it's possible that some other programs might be moved or redirected or something like that. So I haven't heard of any new areas being added to it, but it's not off the table.
So am I wrong that in the beginning it was short term?
Yes.
Okay.
Mhm.
Because
6
I
years.
remember worrying that this amazing experience for some of these kids,
Yeah.
you know, if like you're in middle school now and you're thinking, hey, I want to be able to participate in that, I was worried that by the time they got to high school, they wouldn't have that window of opportunity would have closed. And you're telling me that isn't going to happen?
Nope. So, and we're even reaching back and going back into the middle school. So we'll look to do some more programming and start to pull, because really, even over the last year with everything moving virtual, we didn't lose our connection because we already knew the students. So we had those connections from when they were in 8th grade. So there was no need to like try to force a relationship or build trust. We already had it. So we recognize the value of starting in middle school and building those trust relationships. The stuff that we're doing with families is, you know, we're looking at financial aid, we're looking at income, and all of that is very personal, but they don't have an issue sharing with me because they know me. They're like, yeah, it's Miss Anderson. Like she's going to help me because she helped so-and-so, and I recognize what they're doing. So we see the value in that, building that relationship at the middle school level, starting there.
If you had to guess, what percentage would you say once a kid or their family has come into this, you retain, that they see it through till the end? I'm just wondering if a couple kids drop out,
Oh,
you know.
We give them the opportunity to opt out. We've only ever had 12 opt out of the program completely, so a really high percentage maintain. Yeah. The level of engagement kind of varies. I would say of all the classes, though, this current senior class is the most engaged. They've always been the most engaged group. They always sign up to go on the trips. They're always staying after school. They're the ones reaching out with extra questions.
Are they the first to get the opportunity to be accepted to college right on the spot?
Oh, yes. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, that was new this year.
Okay.
Mm-hmm.
Thanks.
Yeah.
Thank you for all your work.
Thank you.
You really put in a lot of effort and time, and I appreciate it so much.
Yeah, well, it's worth it. I see so much, and I want so much for these students, so thank you.
Any
Have
additional questions, comments? Nope.
We're good. All right, happy holiday. Thank
Happy
you. Thank
holidays.
you.
Appreciate it. Thank you. The next item on the agenda is the early fall assessment and map data.
Good evening, President Getz, Dr. Couch, members of the board.
Good evening.
That's a hard act to follow. Thank you, Andra. That was incredible. Tonight, I was hoping to have one of my partners with me, Nicole Boyce. However, the good news is she got her booster. So she's not here tonight, but she's boosted. So that's great. And we have prepared this together. And tonight, what I'd like to do is just share some information that you have asked us to bring to your attention regarding our NWEA MAP scores. And so this presentation will provide an academic data review. It will go a little deeper with our district fall data by looking at the data by school, by grade, and by student group. I'll also share the early fall assessment results and the newly released preliminary data for KRA. The instructional team will continue to share this type of data on a regular basis so we can monitor growth, progress, and keep our eye on the rigorous targets that we have set for the year. Our desired state or our system vision is that all students will graduate equipped to achieve their highest potential. We know this vision is both inspirational as well as challenging, but we believe that it describes perfectly what we truly want for all students. Our mission also supports the vision, but reminds us of our purpose by creating an environment for academic excellence. We believe the mission communicates direction for our actions, and tonight, in several presentations, you've heard key words pop out, such as collaboration, equitable services, and rigorous learning community. I try to bring up our vision and mission each time because I want to acknowledge the commitments that we have made, while at the same time recognizing that coming out of a pandemic, our teachers and our students are truly in a very challenging place. The trauma students and staff are facing is different than anything we have ever seen in our lives before, and we want to just acknowledge that right up front. A few staff have recently participated in an incredible experience called range finding. And this is one of the best professional development opportunities for our teachers. We mention this because it really aligns with the work that we're trying to do to reach the targets that are in front of us at this point. We know that teachers from across the state gather in small groups, and they actually look at the student samples from work and sort the responses to establish ranges of proficiency from basic to more advanced. We know that the assessment our students will take in the spring will be new and therefore the first time they will be administered. According to MSDE, the results from this year's state assessments will serve as the baseline for future goal setting. We understand that the future results reported on a scale, Dr. Couch actually mentioned this, will be reported on a scale of 4 compared to what we have now on a scale of 5. But we don't know yet exactly how our new assessment will correlate to NWEA MAP. However, in Kent County, we did not want to wait to establish baseline. So we did not want to wait for that year, and we agreed to use MAP to set both our local math and literacy goals and targets. And on MAP, the scores were reported in the 5 levels, and we set our goals based on the students that are achieving both in levels 4 and level 5. I say that just to keep that in mind because that's an important part of the targets that we set. This slide shows what we have already reviewed, just basically stating that our fall data reflects 30% proficiency currently in ELA, and we are setting to move from 30 to 41. And in mathematics, our baseline in the fall, we had 14% proficiency, and we have set the target to move to 30%. We also have a stated equity goal, and that is that any one student group within an identified achievement gap based on the fall data will decrease that gap by 50% on the NWEA map.
Ms. Giacomo, just real quick, a question. I know at the state level, there's been some, from the transition from the former state superintendent to the current state superintendent, there's been a lot of folks that did not think it was a good idea to even take the fall assessments based on obviously coming out of COVID and all. do you have a sense of where the other 23 systems are, or Dr. Couch, maybe you do, kind of, in coming out of that COVID space and through summer and taking the fall assessments? How, from a macro level, how did all this school systems, are they kind of in the same space?
So we're going to actually share that slide.
Okay,
I'm
cool,
going to
thank
share
you.
that information tonight, and I think, yes, you'll find some information that fits with exactly what you were thinking is, it's sort of a new baseline. It's a different place to begin. And that's exactly what they stated at the state meeting as well. The information on this slide is not new. However, it is an important reminder that the target we've set is at 41. This slide, the piece that we wanted to showcase is the color bar graph shows each of the grade levels. So you're looking, the blue bar graph is grade 3, going right across grades 4, 5, 6, 7, and 8. And it's showing you the starting, and I know it may be hard to see, however, copies will also be available, which are much easier to see, in terms of, Nicole included the actual percent on the graph as well. So it's the baseline for where we are now, and I know that we've stated this information. This is not something that will be a surprise to anyone. We can also look at our student groups across the different grade levels to see, where are some strengths and where are some needs, and also looking for any of those gaps as well. The next slide is the same information. However, you've asked us to also continue to show you students performing at levels 3, 4, and 5. So again, the difference, you'll see more students have exceeded that 40th percentile when you include levels 3, 4, and 5. And a much higher performance at some particular grade levels. And it's interesting because Dr. Couch has joined us. We have completed 3 of 4 school learning walks just recently. In fact, today we were at the middle school. And to me, it's power of putting our words into action. Our commitment in our strategic plan this year was to hold frequent data-fueled discussions. And that's exactly what we witnessed today as we talked, and Dr. Sperry and her team were sharing, what is it that we notice in terms of certain grade levels and certain student groups outperforming or underperforming, and what can we do to provide the resources needed for these students to achieve their full potential. And this one, I believe we also had, Francois, it may have been you, had asked if we could see it by school. So this is another way of looking at the same data, but rather than grade by grade, each of the bar graph, you'll note the school. Galena being the blue, Garnett the orange, Rock Hall is the yellow, the middle school is the green, and the high school, I don't know, it looks orange to me. Garnett is red and the high school is orange. It's a little difficult to see the colors there. We also know that for the high school in the area of English language arts, that is 1 grade level. That's the students in high school that are taking the 10th grade assessment in ELA. Compared to when you're looking at the middle school, it's grades 6, 7, and 8 combined, and elementary, it's 3, 4, and 5 combined. This slide shows the same information. However, now we have included students performing also at level 3.
4 and 5.
Right, 3, 4, and 5, yes. So one of the things that our LAC, Nicole Boyce, took the time to put together was to really try to put some faces with the numbers that are up here. So we know as a district, our goal is that by fall of 2021, we are at 30%, and we're trying to move to 41%. So what does this mean when we're looking at it district-wide? What we know is that 758 students, grades 3 through 8, took the MAP Reading Growth Assessment. 221 scored at a level 4 or 5. 41% of them, 311 students. 311 students minus the 221, you have 90 students that need to move to a 4. So 129 students in our district currently scored at a level 3. What does that tell us? That we have to move 70% of the current level 3 students to a level 4 and 5 in order to achieve that rigorous target that we have set. And that's considering that anyone that's currently in a 4 or 5 will remain in a 4 or 5. So you're saying students that are currently performing at a level 4 or 5 will stay there, and another 70% of those sitting in a level 3 must also move to a level 4 or 5. And that will bring us to the achievement of 41% hitting the target. Just another way to look at that. Let's take the same quick walk through the math data. Again, this is not new. We've done a review of this before, but you've asked to see it in a little different way. So in this slide, we're showing our target at 30% and each of the grade levels 3 through 8, where we stand now. Looking at our student groups, you'll see some things that really jump out at you. I mean, look at the groups, both are the achievement of our African American students and the Hispanic students. We have many that look almost flat, which means, students are performing below the proficiency level in those particular grade levels. We also know that our numbers in many cases, when you break it down by grade, are very, very small. So sometimes if you were to look at it in a school, their scores would not even be reported because you need 10 students in order to be able to report it on the state assessment. Very often we don't meet the 10. In fact, in elementary school, I can only think of Galena may have one of the grade levels that meets 10 students in a grade, but other than that, we don't have that number in. So it's important to put all of this information out there. It's important that we own this information, that we know the students, and that we're flooding them with a sea of resources to try to help them really do what they can to move to proficiency. This slide shows the students in all the various grade levels performing in levels 3, 4, and 5 combined. And we'll see the same thing here again. This time is by school, just another way that you have asked us to present the information. And the same information again with all 3 levels of proficiency. I think, to me, the most telling information is this slide. Again, we'll just kind of quickly walk through it in the area of mathematics. We know that 761 students, and that should not say middle school, it should say KCPS. I'm sorry, the second bullet. 761 KCPS students took the math growth assessment. 108 of those students scored at a level 4 or 5. So 30%, if we want to hit a 30%, we need a total of 228 students. That means 120 students need to move to a 4. Now, 125 scored at a level 3 last time we took this in the fall. That tells us that we must move 96% of the current level 3 students to a level 4 and 5, as well as maintaining those that are currently sitting in levels 4 and 5. This is serious business. This is the work that we're doing every day. This is the work that our principals and their teams at the school level, we put a face to these numbers. We go into the classroom, we know who they are, and I think, the one thing that we're really proud of is the amount of funding through ESSER and all of the tutoring is being very intentional with every movement that we make within a school day to try to see that we are putting our resources in the right places. So that's a lot of information about the NWEA map, and I have even a little more because the other way you asked us to show this to you is just to give it to you sort of in that quick dashboard format. So it's another way to see the same information. If you don't mind, I'd like to just show you that. Before I do, we thought it might be helpful to have the actual Writ scores. So the Writ scores increase with each administration of the test window. What that means is in the fall, there is a certain score that's required to meet the level of proficiency. But what you'll see if you just look across in the area of reading from fall to winter to spring, just pick a grade, 4th grade in the fall, 196.67 is scoring at the 50th percentile, Okay, that's how you equate that. But if you move over to the winter, now to get that same percentile, that also, the bar is raised there. So just to meet the 50th, it's gone from 196 to 202. And then in the spring, it jumps to 204. So again, it's just being open, transparent, and having us all put our heads together when we're trying to think about what is it that we're setting as our target, and what does that mean for our teachers, our students, and our families. This is the Kent County dashboard. We own this one. This is one that we've created, and it's a little busy. I don't know that we're going to stick with it like this forever, but this is another way to put it out there, which is showing you grade by grade, and we've included both the 4.5s, which is the top, the percent of students scoring at the 61st percentile, and then the 3.45, the 41st percentile or higher.
Can we go back to the other dashboard for just a sec?
The 3.45?
The one just before this one.
This one.
So, as I'm looking at each grade level jump, I would expect that the starting fall of the next grade level would be higher than the ending spring of the previous grade level, and it looks like that's not always the case.
That's a great question or comment, and I think, the only thing I can tell you is that each of these scores are nationally normed.
Okay.
And I'm not sure what the explanation is as to why that change may be there, but that is something that's, I guess, food for thought. Right?
Okay. Thank you.
Mm-hmm. So we left off just looking at it again, grades 6, 7, and 8. English language arts, and mathematics. And then this is what the dashboard would look like if we were to present it by school. We wanted to just show you a variety of ways because this is our first year actually putting a dashboard together. And I think one of the things we had in mind initially was that this would be something that eventually would go up on our website, where we would have that accountability and that frequent open, transparency with our current data. We could put our scores in there. But one of the things we were wondering is, does it make sense? What is the best way to present it? Do you want everything in there? Do you want that to be at the school level and maybe just the overall on the district dashboard? Just some things to think about. It will all be collected no matter what, but we didn't know what would make the most sense sort of for a quick glance at the public level as well. So we gave you everything. And let me just pause there because that's the end of the NWEA map, and I'm sorry if I went a little quickly. I know you've been sitting for a while. So let me just pause and ask if there are any comments or questions about just that portion of it, and then I'll go into the early fall assessment.
Any questions?
Yep.
Comments?
Okay. So during the last Maryland State Board meeting, State Superintendent Chaudhary stated that the results of the Maryland Early Fall Assessment and KRA assessment reflect the national trends on learning loss as a result of the pandemic. I'm sure that you are well aware that Maryland requested and received a waiver from the state assessments in the spring of 2021. But we were obligated as a state to give these early fall assessments. Therefore, the actual test was modified in reading, math, and science. Kent County had an excellent participation rate. We had over 95% of our students participate. Nationally, the participation rate ranged from 70% to 80%. Chaudhary reminded everyone to keep in mind that students were in school less than 1 month, and in many cases had been out of school for over a year when this early fall assessment was given. In the fall, students were tested on the content enrolled courses from the spring 2021. So if you were a 4th grader, you took the 3rd grade assessment. Teachers and principals know that this assessment was not just about measuring the content, but really about their readiness to learn in the classroom. We are not and don't plan to attack the data of the early fall assessment the same way we would with previous data like PARCC. These were reported in 3 performance levels, as compared to what we've seen with our other assessments. So for the early fall, it was either approaching, met, or exceeded standards. So as we look at this example, it's not an example, this is the actual Maryland and Kent County early fall assessment data. What you'll see is the red stands for those students, the percent of students that were approaching expectations, the orange, those that met expectations, and the green were exceeded. You'll see it by state, and then how Kent County compared to the overall state of Maryland as well, and school by school. This is another way to look at the early fall assessment data, and I believe this may have been what you were referring to, President Getz. This is when you can compare how Kent County fared on the assessment to the other districts. Now, I counted this just with my eye. I'm not sure, Dr. Couch, if you counted it as well. You can correct me if I'm wrong.
We kind of used a ruler to see where we
See where we fall. So in ELA, we were 17 out of 24. And that, please, I mean, don't quote me on that. That's just by me trying to
count.
Put my ruler up and count. In mathematics, 21 out of 24. In science, that's this screen, we were 17 out of 24 across the state of Maryland.
How do we compare just, I'm trying to see, compared, maybe for next time, I just would be interested in seeing how we compare to school districts similar to ours.
Okay.
Just a little bit easier, like
Mhm.
Somerset and Garrett and those types of school district.
And I think that's something we could prepare and share with you, especially as we become more familiar with the data that they're releasing as well. So again, just another quick glance, English language arts, math, and science. Well, if you haven't noticed, we've been sort of obsessing over our data. This is what really drives everything we're doing, and we believe that it's going to take a lot of digging to uncover best practices, not only across our district through the learning walks, but across the state by looking at other districts that are outperforming ours, whether it's on NWEA MAP or even the early fall assessment, trying to capture some of those best practices. We're also thinking about what Dr. Couch mentioned earlier, the wraparound services, because these are key in trying to really help families that when they are struggling. And for the first time now, beyond the Judy Center, we have other schools that are able to go out and have someone dedicated to exactly that, trying to see child by child how we can best support our students. And also looking at it by student groups. Each of these future board members, we're going to continue board meetings, we will continue to bring different deep data dives and look at some of those student groups. In January, we will specifically be looking at the English language learners, so we'll share some of that information as well. The next slide is preliminary data for the kindergarten readiness assessment. And we are pleased to share that we are number 3 out of 24 on the kindergarten readiness assessment. And again, we still have a lot of unpacking to do, but I think it's really important to take a moment to celebrate some things that are very positive in terms of the readiness of our students and the efforts of our early childhood teachers as well. So, you know, as I said early on, our teachers and students are facing, I think, challenges every day, unlike what they've ever seen before. So we appreciate this effort, and we believe it's going to pay off for all students.
Could I
We-
ask a question?
Yes.
Since, do we have evidence that the kids who went to our pre-K, which is not required, did better on the kindergarten readiness assessment?
So are you asking that if our students that attended the Kent County Public School Pre-K compared to outliers? In Kent County, we have approximately 80% of our students attend our pre-K, so most of the data belongs to Kent County Public Schools. We can break it down. We don't have that yet.
If 80% is a lot.
Yes.
Why aren't more of, I know this compares pretty well with other districts, but if they've been to pre-K for a whole year, why aren't all of them ready for kindergarten?
I'm sorry, if they have been to kindergarten, why are they not all kindergarten ready?
Okay. Well, why aren't more of them ready for kindergarten?
Sure, and it sounds like such a lovely statement, ready for kindergarten. I mean, it seems like everyone would be by the end of a 4-year-old program. However, what we know is the 4 domains that it's measured on, there are some children that have great strengths in the area of social emotional learning and physical development, but have some additional challenges in specific areas of mathematics. And so therefore, there's a lot of information within that readiness, and child by child, it depends on the individual results and the learning that can be done to really help close that gap that's missing to be ready.
Does everybody who attends pre-K, I don't know how to ask this diplomatically, so if I use a wrong word, I apologize ahead of time. Does everybody who attend pre-K automatically move on to kindergarten?
So pre-kindergarten is not required. So yes is the answer. So if they finish the pre-K program, I can only think, and I'll look to Dr. Keene, there may be opportunities if a child has a developmental delay or there's a reason that perhaps they need to additional time in pre-K. It's just so rare. It's one of those.
Okay, so I'm guessing, and in a school district where our numbers are so small anyhow, 1 or 2 things can skew a thing. I realize that. But I'm guessing that a student in pre-K who's got some challenges is going to be one of those students that
Might stay.
brings the number down in terms of our percentage of kindergarten readiness. Is that correct?
I mean, it could be.
Okay.
Yes. All right. So the last thing I just wanted to mention is that we know nationally there are fewer students meeting proficiency compared to pre-pandemic times. And I thought that was interesting. That came out of the state board meeting where they were looking at national trends. I mention this because I just want us to know that right now we're committed to doing whatever it takes to help our students become socially and emotionally available to really accelerate their learning. And the people that are doing that day in and day out are the teachers. So we're grateful for their time and their effort. And we are also appreciative of your interest in trying to keep the data in front of you. So with that, I'll wrap it up unless there are any questions.
Yeah, I mean, I'll just make a comment. I think, the fact that we have the data the way it's presented, and I'm sure it will continue to evolve as we look at information and as you are looking at information. I mean, I think, I could speak for myself. I never thought that it would not be a heavy lift. But the fact that we have the targets out there and they're out ahead of us, and the focus is there, I think is going to help us continue to push properly. But I think it's hugely important to have this data the way it's presented and to be able to come back and keep a focus on it. So, I know that, looking at some of the numbers, we're like, wow, that's what it is, but it's like that everywhere. And so we have goals. They're far-reaching. But that doesn't mean that, we can't continue to work and get, do everything we can to get there and.
But be realistic.
But go from there. So just thank you for the presentation on the numbers. I think it's, it's good to see it in a different light.
No, I think our goal was to share what a heavy lift it is going to be. I mean, when you actually, it's something to put a number on a piece of paper, but when you actually see what it is in terms of how many students, we just wanted you to have a better understanding of what that looks like. That's not for us to make excuses and say we're not going to try to reach those heavy goals, but we want to keep it in perspective in terms of what is really attainable. And, but, we're pressing forward.
I just want to make sure, I don't want why I like the goals. I just want to make sure our teachers are supported and that they're not going to become overwhelmed with trying to. I would like to hear that a little bit more. We present this data, we give walkthroughs, but I don't want them to be bogged down with that in the same breath. It's a heavy task, but we do have it is a crucial time, but I don't want them. I want that balance. And I'm
Too.
yeah, and I'm really curious I think we brought up last time, why we are focusing on this, I still want us to be thinking about what is happening in our K to second grade in that area as well, because I think that's a critical piece, because if students are coming to us already falling behind, we also need to tap into that energy in those primary grades as well to ensure that they're coming ready to third grade so they're not as far behind. So I would also like to see that as well.
Well, it's interesting that you said that because Mr. Chaudhary has also brought up that same concern, that you're seeing a lot of our students that do, fairly well within the KRA, but then something happens between first and second grade, because in the next tested grade is third grade, and then you see all of these deficiencies. So they're actually coming up and working towards coming up with a first and second grade assessment, so that we can not wait until third grade to say, hey, there's these gaps that we need to try to fix. So I think be aware that that's coming in the future as well.
So, and just to piggyback on what Dr. Couch is saying, we are not waiting. Our schools, when we visit our elementary schools right now, we're actually looking at the K-1-2 data, we're collecting it. We have our own local assessments, as well as this year, we have a nationally normed version of an NWEA MAP fluency. It's a dyslexia screener that was given to all students. We have not shared that data yet because we're still learning how to best utilize that data. It's the first time we have ever given it. It's actually the first time it was available to give. So we're having some training for our staff on that as well, but we can certainly share those results. That might be interesting just to sort of see what we learn from that piece, and we would be happy to bring that to you as well. The other thing, just to also, I think, complement what you were saying earlier, is we agree. We don't want to lower the standard. We think it's important to have those high standards, but it's going to be really interesting and, in a way, exciting to see what happens with the middle of the year map. Because I think at that point, that will be a whole nother story. In the fall, so many of our students were away from structures and routines. So now they've been back in school, and now it'll be interesting to see, what do the results look like the second round of the assessment. So. All right, I appreciate that. Thank you, everyone.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, the next item on the agenda is in our administrative services portion of the evening. The first item up is the expenditures and revenue report.
Good evening, Dr. Couch, President Getz, members of the board.
Good evening.
And Sam Buckle. Tonight I'm going to present to you the monthly expenditure and revenue report, and this is as of November 30th, 2021. As you would see, the first page here would be the cash receipts that have been received to date as of November 30th, 2021. For the total for Fund 1 is about $14.9 million. Our Fund 3, school construction capital projects, $130,000. For Fund 5, which is our food service, $436,000, to give us a total of $15.4 million to cash receipts. You go to the next page, it's going to show you what we've expended so far for our current expense fund. We've expended about 73% of this fund. We go to our school construction. I didn't put in specific percentages because as our school construction is mostly on reimbursements, but it shows you specifically what we have expended to date from still with our Galena renovations, the central office parking lot, which is done, and the KCH track. And then we have our food service, which about 58% has been expended to date. And our overall for our expenditures, and this is to date for our restricted funds. So technically 28% we have expended, but as you know, with restricted funds, what we have budgeted is what has been awarded. But you can look at what's been encumbered into year-to-date expenditures for our restricted funds. And then the last page is just going to give you an overall view of our receipts and expenditures as of November 30th. Any questions, comments? This is just for information only.
Thank you. Okay, the next item on the agenda is the proposed FY 2023 budget calendar.
All right. So this, we are requesting for board approval for the KCPS proposed fiscal year 2023 budget calendar. As you would see, we are proposing that the preliminary superintendent's 23 budget discussion will happen at the February 14th board meeting. And thereafter, we're looking at a work session on February 28th to establish budget priorities. And then you will see on the 14th, there will be another discussion in March. There will be another discussion on the budget as well as the 28th. And then the superintendent will present the budget on April the 11th. And then a budget hearing will be had on April 25th to then give us an approval for May the 9th. This is proposed. There could be changes. We may need more or less work sessions, but this is the calendar that we are proposing to discuss the fiscal year 23 budget.
Yeah, so I can make a comment. At least for me, all the dates look okay except for the April 11th.
Okay.
So I'm not saying that we should not proceed just
Gotcha.
because of me, but that being said, obviously it can flex accordingly, so.
Yeah.
April 11th is the regularly scheduled board meeting.
Yeah, I have a scheduled
And then-
conference in Chicago.
The budget hearing scheduled for April 25th, would that be considered the public hearing with public comment?
Yes.
And does that give enough time if there are alterations needed before the final approval on May 9th?
Yes.
Yeah.
This is pending that we will have our temporary, not temporary, but we will have our pending results from the state as far as like our revenues that we're going to be receiving and things of that nature. I know last year was elongated because a lot of the results that we got back, it was kind of delayed from the state. So this is anticipating that we will get our results, on time. So it should, given with the work sessions, we should be available to meet this marks. Or we could meet it earlier. It's not really saying we have to wait until then, because then at that point, once you all approve, we then have to go to the commissioners to get approval.
Okay, thank you.
No problem.
So this is an action item. Board approval is requested for the FY 2023 proposed budget calendar. I'm not sure how everyone is with it.
Someone want to make a motion?
Well, you're asking us to make a motion.
Yeah.
Well, yeah, I didn't know if there were any other conflicts. Normally, when we go through this, we have folks that raise their hands and say we can't do this, this, or this, and then we try to massage the calendar, but
You said you can't do the 11th?
I'm not available on the 11th. I could do,
The following week is our spring break, essentially.
Yeah.
I mean, I could do the 14th, which is Thursday of that week, but that cuts it from 2 weeks down to a week and a half. I don't know if that's enough time.
Well, and I think that's also, school's closed
Yep.
for Easter break or spring break or whatever.
Yep.
But again, please don't stop process just because I'm,
We could always approve this preliminarily, and then we can always look back later on and make some adjustments.
okay, so this is an action item. Do we have a motion to approve the calendar as presented?
I move that we approve the budget calendar as presented.
Mr. Johnson has the motion. Do we have a second?
I'll second.
We have a second by Ms. McGee. Any further comments, questions? Hearing none, we'll call for the vote. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? Hearing none, the motion passes. Thank you.
Thank you.
The next item on the agenda is thank you, Ms. Stewart. The next item on the agenda is fiscal year 2022 calendar revision.
Okay, the board has before you a memo that recommends 5 additional half-days placed into the FY '22 calendar. The first day would occur this next Wednesday, December the 22nd, Wednesday, February the 9th, Wednesday, March the 9th, Friday, March the 18th, and Friday, May the 27th. Those would be half-day releases all would be for students. February 9th and March 9th would be half-day releases, but workday for the staff. So I'm recommending that you approve the days as presented.
Do we have a motion?
Motion to approve the calendar revisions.
Okay, that was Ms. Sullivan. Do we have a second?
Second.
Second by Dr. Costa. Any comments or questions?
Yeah, I just wanted to point out that for parents or whoever, that the February 9th and the March 9th dates are already on the calendar as early dismissals, and they're just being modified to be half-days.
Okay. Okay, we'll call for the vote. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? Hearing none, the motion passes. Thank you very much. The next item on the agenda is the Project Management KCHS roof.
Good evening, President Getz, Dr. Couch, members of the board.
Good evening.
I'm here tonight to present to you the results of our bid opening on November 23rd for the project management services for the upcoming Kent County High School roof replacement project. We ended up having 3 responsive bidders, and we are here tonight to recommend approval for the project management services for the Kent County High School roof replacement project to Development Facilitators Incorporated in the amount of $60,480.
I've got a question. How do you explain the huge difference in the bids?
So it's kind of twofold, and obviously Dr. Couch and myself and everybody else on the committee had the same reaction that probably everybody here has when you first look at it. We did an incredible amount of legwork looking into their proposal in terms of checking all the references and really getting down to the nitty-gritty details of how they got to their figure. The main differences is basically what they charge per hour compared to some of the other bidders. That is really the biggest thing anyway. I know that the other 2 responsive bidders were well over $100 per hour for their main project manager. This one was a little bit under $100 an hour, which, you know, as you start talking about upwards of 600 to 700 hours over the course of a construction, you know, schedule, really adds up to a lot of money. So we, in our research, we found no issues that any other counties have had with their services. Actually, it's the most highly recommended that I've had since taking over in this position in terms of checking references with other counties. So
Where are they based out of?
they are just across the bridge, so they're Anne Arundel County. Yep. So they've done a lot of work in Anne Arundel County and Baltimore County. And like I said, they have a lot of unsolicited praise, you know, in my conversations with those counties through this review process. And, you know, we even took it a step further and actually had a Zoom meeting with them to further discuss their proposal, just to ensure that they did not have any lapses in their scope and their proposal. And they seem like they covered everything that we need them to. Dr. Lever sat in on it as well, and he was pleased with their responses and very encouraged. So that's essentially the reason for the big difference, but we had the same reaction that you did at first as well.
Have we worked with any of the contractors who submitted bids previously?
We had worked with one prior, one of the 3. So this one we have not worked with in our county before. So I think we're excited to, work with another contractor for this type of service too.
Any additional questions? Okay, this is an action item. The administration is requesting favorable approval by the board to award project management services for the Kent County High School roof replacement project to Development Facilitators, Inc., DFI, in the amount of $60,480. Do we have a motion to approve?
I move that we approve it.
We have a motion by Dr. Costa. Do we have a second?
Second.
Second by Mr. Johnson. Any further comments, questions? Hearing none, we'll call for the vote. Oh, sorry.
We had, never mind. Sorry, go ahead.
Okay. We'll call for the vote. All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Hearing none, the motion passes. Thank you, Mr. Kirby.
Thank you.
Appreciate it.
Happy holidays, everybody.
Thank you.
Thank you.
The next item on the agenda is used bus purchase. See Mr. Wheeler coming down?
Come on down.
Come on down.
Good evening, Dr. Couch, members of the board. I bring forth to you this evening the opportunity to purchase a used school bus. One of our contractors, about a week or so ago, decided that he was going to give up his contract, and in doing so, he has a bus that's left out there, and that school bus purchase would cost us around $42,500. The school bus for sale is a 2019 Bluebird. This is a 15-year school bus. We're a 15-year county, so that bus can run 15 years. So that means that bus life would be to the year 2033. 72-passenger school bus with full AC. And like I said, the purchase price is $42,500. So I recommend purchasing of the school bus. You guys have any questions or discussion?
Well, just the fact that it's 2019, and like you said, we're a 15-year county, I mean, we should get our money's worth.
Yes, ma'am.
And even though it's 2019, it probably didn't, during COVID, it didn't log a whole lot of miles,
No.
so.
Currently, I think he has about 76,000 miles on it.
Any additional comments, questions? Hearing none, we'll call for the vote. All those in, actually, we need a motion. Sorry, guys. Motion, please.
I make the motion.
We have the motion by Ms. McGee to purchase Mr. Van Dyke's 2019 Bluebird Vision 72-passenger bus with full AC for a price not to exceed $42,500. Do we have a second?
I'll second.
We have a second by Ms. Sullivan. Any comments or questions?
I wanted to ask you, Mr. Wheeler, do all our buses get about the same mileage every year?
No. Our contracts vary.
So
It depends,
some
yes.
routes are much shorter than
Some routes are much shorter than others. Routes up on the northern end of the county, of course, are going to yield a lot of miles.
Okay, I was just wondering.
Okay, we have a motion and a second. Any additional comments? Hearing none, we'll call for the vote. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? Hearing none, the motion passes. Thank you, Mr. Wheeler. Appreciate it.
Thank you.
The next item on the agenda is Procedure 700-4, Ethics Panel.
Yes, Mr. Getz, President of the board and members of the board, I just wanted to bring together a list of all of the areas that were not addressed in the actual policy that we passed for the ethics policy. As you may recall, the ethics policy was a specific policy that was written by the State Ethics Commission. And so we were asked to adopt the policy as it was written. In order to add additional clarifying comments or clarifying criteria, we had to add it in the form of a procedure. So that's why this procedure was brought forth, because this was not as detailed as the former policy that we had in place. So you'll note that I addressed a lot of the issues with regard to the panel itself, regarding that it's a 3-year term, when it will be appointed, who can be a member of the panel, how does one request advisory opinions, how long does the ethics panel have to respond to a complaint, and I think that pretty much covers it with regard to the procedure itself. Procedures are just information for the board, so I bring it to you as information.
Thank you. Any questions for Dr. Couch regarding that? No? Okay, the next item on the agenda is the Citizen Advisory Committee membership.
Okay. President Getz, members of the board, we met during closed session, reviewed all of the applications. The board made their decision in terms of the Citizens Advisory Committee membership, and I would like to announce those members this evening. Representing Garnett will be Jody Bortz and Maureen Ranville. Representing Galena would be Phil Tickner, Monica Fuchs. Representing Rock Hall Elementary School will be Jennifer Glenn, Carol Manley. Representing Kent County Middle School will be Harold Somerville and Katie Hughes. Representing Kent County High School would be Julie Dunlap and Brenda Vujanik. Community at large will be Bill Fluke and Fran Pimer. The student will be Madison Messick. And board members will be as follows. The chair for the committee will be Trish McGee, and the vice chair will be Francoise Sullivan.
Thank you. And this is an action item. The administration is recommending the approval of these names as presented for the Citizens Advisory Committee. Do we have a motion?
I move that we approve the names that were presented for the Citizen Advisory Committee.
Mr. Johnson has the motion. Do we have a second?
Second?
Second by Dr. Costa. Any additional comments, questions?
I would just note that the first meeting for the CAC is scheduled for January the 24th at 5:30 at the boardroom, Kent County Boardroom.
Thank you. Okay, and that is,
We need to vote.
yeah. We have a motion and a second. Can we have a vote, please? All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? Hearing none, the motion passes. Thank you. The next item on the agenda is public participation. Ms. Manley, do we have any additional comments? We do not. The next item on the agenda is the notification of our next meeting. The next monthly meeting of the Board of Education of Kent County will be held on Monday, January 10th, 2022, beginning at 5:30 p.m. with the open session. Open session will be immediately followed by the board members going into closed session. The open session will resume at 6:30 p.m. The meeting will be located at the administrative building in the boardroom, this room, at 5608 Boundary Avenue, Rock Hall, Maryland, 21661. The last item on the agenda is the administration is recommending approval to adjourn this meeting. Do we have a motion to do so?
Motion to adjourn.
We have a motion by Ms. Sullivan. Do we have a second?
Second?
We have a second by Mr. Johnson. Any further comments, questions? I would like to just, again, wish everyone a happy holidays and a happy new year. So,
I've got one question before we vote.
Please.
Just back on the CAC. When I say we, I mean somebody from administration will notify the members.
Yes,
correct?
I've got letters prepared to
Okay.
send out to the ones that were selected and the ones that were not selected.
Okay, thank you.
we have a motion and a second to adjourn. Call for the vote. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? Hearing none, the meeting is adjourned. Thank you, everyone.